Chapter 789, Blood Veil, Obstruct, Immortals. Translator, Atlas Studios. Editor, Atlas Studios. What? Dongfang Wanshu stared with wide-open eyes. This is not possible, Dongfang Yikong firmly denied. How could it be, Lord Dongfang Changfan? Everyone, be careful. This is likely to be an illusion. The enemy cannot break the formation, so he is trying to confuse us. All the Gu Immortals of Dongfang tribe had incredulous expressions, unable to accept this shocking fact. Old Lord Kenyang scoffed. Confuse you guys? Laughable. All of you are incapable of moving. You aren't even worth confusing. You have already become meat on the chopping board, unable to free yourselves. It is funny how you still cannot see the truth. These words were like shocking strikes of lightning that ruthlessly assaulted the Dongfang tribe's Gu Immortals. Everyone looked at Dongfang Changfan's star will. Dongfang Wanshu shouted, Lord Changfan, this is not real. Dongfang Yikong asked, Lord Changfan, please speak up. Lord Changfan, Dongfang Changfan, what are your intentions? Countless questions and shouts echoed in this hall. The star will chuckled, seemingly at leisure. He was only a will but had condensed into the image of his body back when he was alive. His frame was upright, his face like that of jade, his eyes full of splendor, and a graceful aura of a great commander was revealed. However, right now, this sight, this attitude and demeanor, caused a chill to emerge in the hearts of Dongfang tribe's Gu Immortals. The phantom formation transformed again. The enormous power which it had condensed was finally being released at this moment. It was like a surge of waves. Blood-colored light shot out everywhere, forming a thick, bloody veil that covered the main location in the Ruinbat's corpse. At this sight, Dongfang Wanshu and the rest finally had a huge change in their expressions. They had thought this formation was used for attacking the enemies, but its true use was to defend. This chilling fact was displayed in front of everyone's eyes, tearing apart the lies told by the star will. Dongfang Changfan, why are you doing this? Why are you harming us? Dongfang Wanshu looked malevolent, his expression filled with pain and grief. What could it be for? Being alive is the foundation for everything. Who would want to die? Who doesn't want to live? As long as there is a sliver of a hope to survive, who can resist the temptation? Old Lord Kenyang sneered, staring at the phantom formation intently without blinking. Looking at the phantom formation operating normally, Old Lord Kenyang could not help but take a deep breath. This possession technique really has an extremely high price. It needs the sacrifice of Gu Immortals every time it's activated. If it was true, this possession technique could not be used widely, as the activation conditions were too costly. Dongfang Chang. Fan's star will slowly shook its head. Oh Lord, you don't need to worry. I previously obtained this possession technique in 88 True Yang building. The contents inside allow one to possess mortals and even Gu Immortals. But to possess Gu Immortals, one's cultivation must be higher than the target. Moreover, after possession, the immortal aperture would be the target's immortal aperture. This is akin to a raven taking over a seagull's nest. It is unfitting and has great disadvantages. While alive, I was a Wisdom Path Gu Immortal, but I did not have a suitable Wisdom Path Gu Immortal as the possession target. Thus, I exerted effort to think and plan for so many years before I finally obtained this formation. This formation was created with the possession technique as the foundation. It can let me possess a mortal, and at the same time, it can mobilize the origin cores of Gu Immortals of the same bloodline and create a completely new Wisdom Path immortal aperture, allowing me to immediately become an immortal after possession and avoid the dangerous stage of having weaker cultivation initially. Hearing the Star Will's explanation, Old Lord Kenyang sized up the Star Will while also being inwardly shocked. This Dongfang Changfan concealed his abilities really well. Not only is his Wisdom Path attainment enough to be known as the best in Northern Plains, he also can use Space Path Dao marks and manipulate the Phantom Beast Army. Now it seems his Blood Path attainment is also not low. The Star Will did not know of the churning of Old Lord Kenyang's inner thoughts, still continuing its explanation. Don't underestimate this formation. With these 8 Gu Immortals sacrificing themselves, they will be supplying me with abundant resources. My newly formed immortal aperture will absolutely be the best within high grade. There is also another key point: the immortal aperture will automatically produce resources like flowers, birds, fish, insects, and so on. It would be as if I had managed the blessed land for many years. This would save hundreds of years of hard work. Thus, after I complete possession, not only would my cultivation be restored, I will also have enough resources, much more than when I was alive. Old Lord Kenyang, feel free to observe and ask questions as you desire. I will explain the key content of every step. A heated expression flashed across Old Lord Kenyang's face. He laughed heartily, looking deeply at Dongfang Changfan's star will. You truly made a good plan, wanting me to keep you safe from danger. My presence here was to help you resist these demonic path Gu Immortals, and when you succeed in advancing to Gu Immortal, there will definitely be a heavenly tribulation and earthly calamity. At that time, I will be by your side, forced to take action even if I don't want to. Asuar Dongfang Chang. Fan's star will smiled without any shame from having his scheme exposed. He looked at old Lord Kanyang and said with a quiet and deep voice, if you want to gain something in this world, you need to be prepared to pay the price. How can there be free things? In particular, the more you want to obtain, the higher the risk will be. What is old Lord's decision? Please confirm it quickly. Old Lord Kenyang snickered, but inwardly he deeply admired Dongfang Changfan for being decisive in what to give up. Good. Back then, when Dongfang Changfan obtained the possession technique from 88 True Yang Building's True Inheritance Secluded Domain, he had also discovered the arrangements of Central Continent's 10 great sects. Meanwhile, Immortal Crane Sect had been infiltrating Dongfang tribe. After Dongfang Changfan became a Gu Immortal and joined the higher-ups of the tribe, he secretly discovered this fact. But he did not expose this, instead following this clue, to covertly engage in cooperation with Immortal Crane Sect. He used the possession technique to make a transaction with Immortal Crane Sect. Lifespan Gu were hard to find. Any Gu Immortal would scramble for any methods for life extension, let alone when this possession technique came from Giant Sun Immortal Venerable. Immortal Crane Sect was one of the 10 great ancient sects of Central Continent and had long history with deep foundations, but even it could not resist the temptation of the possession technique. The two sides had their own needs. Dongfang Changfan slowly released the contents of the possession technique while obtaining resources from Immortal Crane Sect. He used these resources to quickly advance and successfully pass many tribulations. He also supported the next generations of the tribe and formed schemes directed everywhere, bringing the declining Dongfang tribe to glory. In cooperating with a person like Dongfang Changfan, old Lord Kenyang was very cautious, not relaxing his guard, even though he was stronger. He did not think for long, nodding and accepting. Dongfang Chang. Fan's star will gave a laugh. Good. I will explain the first step. Old Lord Kenyang listened, paying full attention. It was clear to him that Dongfang Changfan was using him, but old Lord Kenyang had come as a representative of Immortal Crane Sect's will. Thus, he also had no other choice. Old Lord Kenyang thought of the heavy reward from the sect for completing this mission, and that was his motivation to continue. Dongfang tribe's 8 Gu Immortals were already cursing loudly. Dongfang Yuliang was unconscious and motionless, his eyes closed. Meanwhile, in the outside world, Fang Yuan looked down at another sight. He saw an incomparably large blood veil which covered the ruined bat's corpse like a mountain. The blood veil was extremely thick, with greatly plentiful quantities of blood-colored light, and the terrifying might it showcased could make one's heart palpitate. The demonic path. Gu Immortals turned their attentions to the blood veil and stopped their internal conflicts. Some among them tried using their methods in attacking the blood veil, but it was like pebbles being thrown into a large lake. There were only slight ripples on the blood veil, and it stood unmoved, stable like a mountain. Such a strong defense. What Gu formation is this? I have neither seen it nor even heard of it before. Dongfang Changfan truly left behind an endless number of arrangements. The demonic path. Gu Immortals were making guesses. Fang Yuan also frowned. Even though he was an expert in blood path and had his previous life's memories, he had never seen nor heard of this Gu formation. Who cares what Gu formation this is? It will break with one smash from my hammer. Gu Immortal Zhuojian shouted and charged forward. He was riding a flying boar desolate beast. His body was covered in armor, and he was holding a giant hammer. He had a burly build and was easily irritable, but he bullied the weak while fearing the strong. Everyone's gazes gathered on him. Zhuojian felt very proud for being in the limelight, his expression turning even more fierce. But several breaths later, his fierce expression was gone completely, replaced by shock and fear. As he approached the blood veil, the blood in his body went out of his control and started flowing out of his body. Gu Immortals were called Immortals, but their bodies, for the most part, still retained the normal workings and functions of the human body. Blood supported the movement of the body and was a crucial part. Zhuojian was still a far distance from the blood veil, but half the blood in his body had sprayed out. If he continued before he even reached the blood veil, his blood would completely seep out, and he would turn into a dried-out corpse. Such an odd formation. This is the effect of Menzies blood. Gu, it can draw out blood. Menzies blood. Gu is one of the blood path inheritances of Blood Sea ancestor, who could have thought that the rumor of Dongfang Changfen obtaining it was not only true, he also raised this Menzies blood Gu to immortal Gu level. The demonic path Gu Immortals showed moved expressions. Several Gu Immortals tried all kinds of methods, but everyone failed. Everyone was aware that unless they used methods that targeted defensive abilities, they would not be able to break this blood veil. Fang Yan frowned tensely. He himself was an expert in blood path during his previous life, but he currently did not have any blood path immortal Gu, and he cultivated strength path. Without the necessary starting components, one couldn't get anywhere. He was unable to do anything to this formation. The situation was troublesome, and everyone was feeling anxious. Dongfang Yuliang had been inside for so long, he might have already completely obtained the inheritance. The current plan should be to use long-range killer moves. Everyone, attack together. Let's destroy Dongfang Changfan's arrangements first before we fight for the spoils. Otherwise, under the eyes of numerous immortals, a mortal would seize the inheritance. If that really happens, I, unfettered scholar, would have no face left to continue living in Northern Plains. Unfettered scholar suddenly shouted. He immediately made his move after shouting, "The demonic path." Gu Immortals agreed. For a while, water and fire converged. Lightning and wind struck, colorful lights sparkled, and countless explosions struck the blood veil, reducing its mass. Everyone had joyful expressions before they soon turned grave. The blood veil continuously shrunk, but also unceasingly regenerated. Especially for the parts further inside, the demonic path Gu Immortals' attacks clearly showed insufficient damage. Everyone had joyful expressions before they soon turned grave. The blood veil continuously shrunk, but also unceasingly regenerated. Especially for the parts further inside, the demonic path Gu Immortals' attacks clearly showed insufficient damage.